There are primarily two building blocks of this overall solution: TIBCO JasperSoft and TIBCO Connected Intelligence Platform. Within the TIBCO JasperSoft, we'll be using the Jasper Reports IO service. TIBCO Jasper Reports IO is a new breed of reporting and visualization engine built for cloud and DevOps that enables developers to build highly formatted, pixel-perfect, customized reports. If you want to know more about TIBCO Jasper Reports IO, I would highly encourage you to look at the live demo booth where we'll show TIBCO Jasper Reports IO in action in AWS EKS, producing 100,000 reports in just a couple of hours. There are various sessions in TIBCO now that gives you a detailed overview of the TIBCO Connected Intelligence Platform. Our goal is simple. Our goal is to wire these services together using a simple flow designer to create an event-driven business workflow. Now let's look at some of the business use cases. The first one is the alerting and report broadcasting. This is one of the very relevant workflows in the reporting world. The idea is to distribute highly formatted reports to the downstream users whenever an event is triggered. We'll cover this particular use case during the demo. The second one is to build a reporting workflow with TIBCO Live Apps. In various use cases, the business user would like to add the reporting as a step to the overall business workflow. For example, you're building an expense management workflow, and at the end of the workflow, you would like to distribute the reports to all the downstream users. The next one is the IoT edge reporting. Some of the modern day edge devices have strong computing power, which will allow them to deploy the runtime of Jrio and Flogo inside the edge device. This will definitely help the overall reporting to be moved from central hub to the edge device. It will also help in traffic smoothing and device isolation. Now let's look at the solution architecture of the report broadcasting scenario. As you can see in the solution architecture, we have Salesforce. That can be, it can be any other data source, but we'll be using Salesforce in this scenario. We have Salesforce, we have TCI, we have Jrio, and then we have the end users. Whenever there is a new data change in Salesforce, for example, a new opportunity is created, Flogo connector reads the change, and then it executes a reporting service to Jrio. Jrio will execute a report, a detailed report, pixel perfect report with the new data, prepare the report, and send the output back to TCI. TCI will then schedule the report output to the end user, and it can be done via email or phone. This is a very simplified view of the architecture. You can add, remove, modify certain components to achieve different business needs. For example, you can replace Jrio with Jasper Report Server. You can also add live apps to the overall scenario to build a reporting workflow. With that, I'll hand it over to Gene to give you the complete demo. Over to you, Gene.
Thanks again, Abhishek, for that great introduction. My name's Gene Arnold, and I'm one of the senior sales engineers for the TIBCO Cloud Integration Platform. During my part of the presentation, I'll be giving you a demonstration of a few of the use cases that Abhishek just mentioned a few moments ago, as well as how we wire up the entire process. So let's get started. For the first part of this demonstration, let's take a quick look at Jasper Reports IO. And I'll be referring to this for the rest of the presentation as JRIO. JRIO is a reporting service that is designed to do just that, produce lots of reports. You can pass the reports different parameters, and the report will bring back different data. It can be hosted in various locations. You can scale it up, you can scale it down. JRIO is a really, really powerful reporting service. This particular service has a few different ways you can communicate with it. We'll be focusing on the REST API, and specifically, we'll be looking at the reports service. This is a very simple GET service, okay? You pass it a few parameters and arguments, and it'll produce and return a report back to you. In fact, a quick example of what this looks like is right here. Here is a call into JRIO. We're asking it to bring back the first Jasper report, and we're specifically asking it to render that report in HTML. And I can change this HTML to PDF, and you'll see that it'll be downloaded in PDF. Okay, so we're going to use this GET call inside of our example. And I'm going to take you there right now into Flogo, and we're going to wrap up Jrio to make this a service inside of a Flogo application. So here we are in Flogo, and we're taking a look at a Flogo application. This application is named Jrio underscore service underscore v1. And this particular application has a single flow, and this flow is called send report. So let's go and drill into this. This particular flow is triggered with a simple REST trigger. Okay, it is going to be called at this particular path, send report. It's a post method, right? You speak to it via post, and it takes in some payload. Okay, it takes in this JSON object to help not only speak to Jrio, like the report name and type and parameters, but it also handles the fact that our Flogo microservice not only goes out and creates a report, but it also takes that report and emails that out. Okay, so the information that's going to be sent into this call should not only give you the information for the report, but also the information for the email that follows. And if we simply go through the flow, there is a log activity that I just use to take a look at all of the information that's being sent in through the payload, and basically format a string and take a look at it in the logger just to make sure everything looks good. It's basically just for debugging purposes. But the actual Jrio integration happens right here with an invoke REST service. We call our Jrio instance, but at the end of the URL to Jrio, remember where you saw first Jasper.html? This is basically a parameter here, and there could be more. Okay, and if we go back into here, I'm going to actually use something called a path parameter. All right, and it's going to be called report. So now we're going to move into the inputs, and we're going to start mapping things. Here's our report parameter that we're going to use inside of our URL. And just like you saw me do in the log message, I'm taking the information that's coming in from our REST call and formatting it, concatenating it in a particular way that Jrio is looking for. Okay, so this report parameter here is this report parameter here. I'm simply just extending the URL with information that was sent in to me. And then this call will return a report that we'll use later on in the send email activity that I'll take you to right now. Here's our send email activity. This takes some pretty basic type of things you would expect to see, right? Who's it being sent from? I hard-coded that in there. The subject that came in from the payload, same thing, the body, rather the message. And then there's an attachments section. And this is where we attach the information that we got from our REST call just a moment ago. All right, there is the data for the file. And we're just going to pass in some information that we got along the way for the name. All right, so the first part is speaking to Jrio. The second part over here is taking what we got from Jrio along with other information through our flow to send out our email. And then we just bring back a simple return, okay, and give it some information. What does this look like? Let's go over to a test. Here is a test configuration. I'll open this up a little bit for you. Now, if you remember from the earlier PowerPoint, we were going to use this to do an opportunity alert. So this report is going to speak to Salesforce.com. There's the Salesforce ID, and it's going to pass this into the report so the report can get information about this particular opportunity, and it's going to assign my buddy Jrio the rep to be the rep for this opportunity. All right, so the actual report will have his name on it, though I am sending it to me so that I can show it to you in the example. All right, so we'll click on Next, and we will run this. And this is going out to Jrio. The report is being processed. That means going to salesforce.com, getting information, returning that report, and then we'll use that report and that information, along with some of the other information we got earlier, to send the email off. Okay, looks like everything worked out okay. If we go over here to the opportunity alert label in my Gmail, there we go. Here's my report. There's my buddy Jrio, and information about that. So this is our service. What I'd like to do now is show you how you can use this service in different ways. We'll use it within our use case with Salesforce.com, and we'll also show you how this works right on the TIBCO mesh, and you can use this in other TIBCO applications. Specifically, I'm going to show you how to integrate this into live apps. Before we actually move into the use cases, I just want to show you a quick example of what it looks like to use an application that's in the TIBCO mesh within another application, like maybe another flow. So I created a JRIO_test_harness application. All right, and this application has one flow in it. All right, and it's just a simple flow that could be doing a number of different things. We could be speaking to databases, other services, anything you want. But let's just say during the flow, you wanted to go and generate a report. Well, rather than having to go and build out everything that you saw earlier, you'd simply just say, hey, I want to go and call one of the services on the TIBCO cloud. So let me go in here real quick. Let's open up a REST service call, and we will go and discover services from TIBCO Cloud Mesh. We'll make that true. And then by doing that, any of the services that you have on the mesh would be available for you to choose here. And once you select the service, the drop-down will show you the various paths that are available. If you have more than one path, you could select the path that you want. You'll set the method for the appropriate call. But here's the real cool part. After you do that, all of the information that's required to make that service work automatically comes into your REST call. You don't have to go and set any of that up. Okay, so it's really nice, and of course you can go and hard code any of that information in if you choose, or you could send in parameters from the rest of your flow. So like I said, I'm going to show you two use cases, one with live apps and one with Salesforce.com, but I thought it might be kind of cool just to give you an idea of what it looks like when you have an app within the TIBCO mesh, and the fact that you can use it in a number of different places, even within another Flogo application. So now let's jump over to TIBCO Cloud Live Apps, and we're in the designer. And I simply want to show you, again, how easy it is to add this application that we added to the TIBCO mesh into another TIBCO application. Now, I'm using live apps just for demonstration purposes, so you can kind of see the way things work together nicely. But the great thing about TIBCO Mesh and TIBCO Cloud is that these tools would be available in all kinds of places, all right? But this is just a really nice example of how you can do this. So let's just say that I wanted to add an action, okay, into my live app that would send a report, okay? So I would, click new action, and here it is. And I would click on edit. And in this particular action, I would add a task by clicking on the little task icon and adding it in. Now, this specific task will be designed to call a service from the TIBCO mesh. And that is a very, very easy process. I'm going to double click on this. And we're going to move over to the exchange data with your company's services. I simply just do that little radio button, and then the service lights up, and it asks me, well, what service do you want to connect to? I'll click on select service, and lo and behold, there is our JRIO service that we've been looking at earlier. Also, notice there is the path. So if this service exposed more than one path, I could also pick the particular path that I want to use. Now, after I select this, notice that the inputs and outputs lit up. If I click on inputs, here are all the pieces of the payload, right? All the JSON that you've seen a couple times now that are required to be filled in when you send it over. Now, they could be hard-coded or they could be filled in from parameters through your live app. Again, this is not a live app demonstration, but simply just showing you that I can now create services in Flogo, microservices, add them to the TIBCO mesh, and utilize them in other areas, just like this. We created a reporting service, and now other tools within the TIBCO cloud can speak to this and utilize it throughout their processes. So here we are in Salesforce.com. And here I'd like to show you how you can use the services that we created earlier in TIBCO, in the TIBCO cloud, and use them inside of a completely third-party application. This is going to take care of the use case that we talked about in the PowerPoint, the opportunity alert use case, where I'm going to go and create a new opportunity, and we'll call this Big Sale Oppo, okay? And let's put an account in here, and we'll make the amount 500,000. We'll close it today, and we'll give it a stage. Now, the idea is when we create this opportunity, we'd like to have information about this opportunity sent to a sales rep. Think of this as maybe a leads being created. We're doing some lead generation, and an opportunity is created inside of your CRM system, and you'd now like to have your sales rep pick up the deal and move the process forward. So we just saved that opportunity, and that will now send an email over to the sales rep. So let's go take a look at my inbox and take a look at that now. Okay, here is my inbox, and here is one that I tested before and one that I got in just now. And we have our Big Sale Oppo, and everything worked out just fine. Our sales rep was alerted of the opportunity, has information about it, and can start communicating with this customer and move the sale forward. So that's going to wrap up the demo portion of this presentation. Both Abhishek and I certainly hope you enjoyed this session and learned a lot. Most importantly, we appreciate you attending TIBCO Now and certainly our session. Have a great day.